Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, and thinkers at All Things Do This podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date is Tuesday, September 26, 2017. Yeah, I had to take some time off. I just been sleeping a little bit late and all that, so had to chill, take care of a few personal things. Yes, I'm in the downtown library off of Andrews Avenue. South of Andrews Avenue, to be exact. 100, I think it's called. 100 South Andrews Avenue. Yeah, pretty cool place. Been here for a good long time. Little computer room, got little other things here as well. I'm just wondering when the Cultural Information Center will reopen. It's pretty quiet. It's very interesting. I just been observing the past few days. I call it total distraction of the week, when Donald Trump and the NFL and the NBA players were butting heads, speaking their minds, Trump's telling people, these folks don't want to honor the flag, they need to be fired. Yes, so he's going to be an expert on the entertainment industry. Why? Because he did these shows, The Apprentice, and many of these individuals in the NFL started protesting, doing their kneeling on the ground, trying to do the Kaepernick pose, I always forget the guy's name, sorry about that, corner Kaepernick pose. Come on. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you have to look at this as an open, free market. And sometimes they look at the other side as well on this disgracefulness and disgracing the flag. And the question is, what kind of flag we should be honoring? The true American flag or the martial law flag or the maritime law flag, which has the golden fringes? Something you need to look at, my friends. And how about even the ones with going in there being patted down like a bunch of little slave boys and slave girls? Oh yeah, that's okay as well. They want to talk about freedom of speech and oppression and all that. Start in your own backyard. The National Football League, that is. And if you go on the Trump side, the Trump administration side, in these local bobbleheads in Washington, D.C., how about why we have to spend about little under $36 billion a month on defense, which many of it go to other countries such as Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. That's okay as well. But we have to worry about respecting the flag. Well, to be very sincere, my friends, I can see this as a total mass distraction. That's right. They want us to be angry. They want us to be down our throats. They try to have to do things behind our backs. It's been going on for so many years. We could say centuries and possibly millenniums. For other words, thousands of years. Another thing we should be looking at too is there's been some interesting news I got from a colleague of mine on Facebook, Zeta Hall, addressed about the United States notes that has gold backing currency. Something coming out October 1st. How come we're not talking about that on the news? Yeah, it looks like the fiduciary notes may be coming back. They can only be used in the United States of America only. That's still a good start. I'm not addressing about that. And even what's going on in Catalonia, trying to be independent. I may talk about that in my other show in the very near future. Maybe later on tonight or tomorrow, see what happens, see what mood I'm in. So I am going to be talking about going on with the NFL and some of the views, the pros and cons on both sides. That's how I see it, some commentaries. Hey, as far as I'm concerned, it's more of an open free market. Correct? Absolutely. Now, all it's here, everyone's worried about the sports. Well, I'm going to continue on after to do these commentaries on that, plus a few other things not pertaining to the NFL. The church of sports. Yes, I love my police state. As long as I got my football, police state's okay. Pat me down like a bunch of peasants. I'll be an Uncle Tom and Aunt Jemima to the state. That's a real interference of freedom of conscience. They may say you'd be a terrorist if you think critically. So, speaking of the NFL, we'll just talk about here is by actually Ben Garrison, who's a real good political artist. Jumping the shark. It says here, death of the NFL. And it says here, The left has hated the NFL for a long time. To them, football is a sport that encourages toxic masculinity, which goes against the grain of political correctness. Injuries that were once part of the game were dramatized with increasing alarm, particularly concussions that brought about efforts to make the game safe. Rules were piled upon rules, and the fun of the game was sapped. The game grew longer and more tedious. All sport playing are now examined, thus enabling sponsors to pack in more commercials. Next, the players were feminized. That's it. They are now forced to wear pink during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Even the refs throw pink flags. Truth is, they don't want to cure cancer because it's big business for the big pharmaceutical companies. Pink is there to make the game look ridiculous. Too many Super Bowl halftime shows are now suitable for children. They often feature Illuminati symbols, sexual imagery, and violent images. Extravagantly expensive stadiums are built at taxpayer expense. They name after globalist companies. Children are taught about bathroom choices because the new stadiums come with transgender-friendly options. Can we say mind control 101? Many fans then get priced out of the very stadium they help fund it. The average family can't afford the ridiculous high price for tickets, concessions, and souvenirs, not to mention parking. The hard-working middle class, what's left of them, can't identify with the spoiled multi-million-dollar NFL players. To be sure, some of those players do charitable work, but many of them are also arrested for DUIs, domestic abuse, general thuggery, or even murder. Nobody wants to watch self-centered, slow-boating jerks who can make money in a few minutes of play than many viewers can make in a year. If all of that weren't enough, the sport has become politicized. Those turning into ESPN to hear about social problems instead of statistics. And the Trump derangement syndrome has infected the broadcast. When Colin Kaepernick began kneeling, the NFL should have merely nipped his disrespect of the flag in the bud. After all, the Castro-loving QB was breaking the own NFL's own rules. Okay, so he's talking about contractual agreements, correct? Instead, the NFL allowed it to spread. More players began sitting and kneeling while complaining vaguely about inequality. When Trump spoke out against it, the commissioner, Roger Goodell, doubled down. Many more players began kneeling just because they don't like our president. This was just the NFL's jump the shark moment. Now the entire team are cowering in the locker room, afraid of our flag, while hypocritically talking about unity. Our anthem is about unity. It's the one moment when all fans and players of both of them are united Americans regardless of their political beliefs. The NFL claims free speech allows players to disrespect their flag and country. It is our free speech to speak out against their behavior and stop watching their product. So Ben Garrison has some great points. Is it in the rules? Did they sign a contractual agreement with the NFL and the NFL Players Association pertaining to the conditions on honoring the national anthem? One of the areas you have to really look at. And we all know too that using public funded stadiums, including they do some renovations with the Dade County tax dollars on Joe Robbie, which right now, as far as I'm concerned, the man's room is great because at least he took the initiative on using private investors to build that stadium when the people in Dade County shot it down on raising the penny tax, which he fully respected. He wasn't some crybaby. He may be an SOB, but he understood what the voters didn't want. And that's okay. So this is the whole thing in this area. Again, Ben Garrison made some great points about disrespecting the flag and all that. Hey, get them where it hurts their wallets. Remember, football, NFL, and other sports is entertainment. It's not a church, a religion, a fanaticism. I know people like to go just to get their minds off the stress that's in their personal life, which is okay. I'm not going to crucify every NFL player for kneeling down, but sometimes you have to always think of the bigger picture. How do you make greater impact to get people on your side instead of doing things of the her conforming of the kneeling. That's just my own personal view. So I'm going to continue on here, which says here, this is by Bob Livingston, and it talks about here, but the NFL players have a First Amendment right to act like little bitches. Frankly, in my view, the sporting world should be politics-free zone. In fact, I am compelled to write about politics in sports in America today. It is bewildering beyond belief. That said, to be clear, I'm not a fan of the NFL. I think the sport, most like professional sports, is overrun with whiny, juiced-up morons paid billions of dollars for providing nothing to the public except subpar entertainment and little to no loyalty to the state or city in which that happen to be employed. NFL players are not legitimate role models for society anymore. That costume television wrestlers are role models for society. Add to this rampant politicalization of the NFL over the past several years with social justice undertones and overtones, and I can't think of a single redeeming quality to the arena. The best thing that could possibly happen to U.S. athletics would be if the entire system was scrapped and rebuilt from the ashes with truly local teams composed of local players, driven purely by a desire for athletic excellence and healthy competition. To me, it seems the appeal of sports, for at least for spectators, is the possibility that anything can happen according to the merit of the players and the teams. In a society in which so much is restricted and controlled and dictated by political correctness and appeals to artificial fairness, that the idea, at least on a football field, baseball diamond, or a hockey rink, all of the garbage goes out the window for a few hours is enticing, to say the least. Spontaneous moments of greatness are what people want to see, not blunt display of ideological ignorance. There is no social justice in real sports. There is no affirmative action. There are no safe spaces. The men or women rise to the top and the losers go home with nothing. That is the way it should be. Champions soar to the heights as easily as they fall to the depths, and underdogs can shock the world through sheer determination. You cannot lie or steal your way to athletic superiority. You cannot use your victim group status to win trophies and medals. You have to work hard. You have to earn it. If you are a fraud, you will be found out eventually. This is a philosophy which has been lost in modern athletics. Leftists in our culture are also obvious to the notion. When I see one of the last fields of American heritage and mediocrity being destroyed by cultural Marxism, I do feel what I'm sure many people feel, enraged. However, the situation is more complex than the surface conflict suggests. Absolutely. NFL players refusing to stand to the national anthem is not really the issue here. But Donald Trump admonishing them for their actions is also not the issue here. It is the motivations behind both sides that concerns me. For activist NFL players and owners, the motivation is rather clear. Social justice cultism has seeped into their profession, and some of them have decided to use the platform they have been given to pontificate rather than play the game they are paid to play. Protests attacking non-existent racism and patriarchy against a system that has made these men multi-millionaire celebrities regardless of their skin color would be relegated to the idiocy of college campuses if any of these people had any sense of judgment. For Donald Trump, the motivation is far more foggy. I would prefer if the President of the United States spends his energy on filling his campaign promise of draining the swamp of banking elites and neocon warmongers instead of loading his cabinet with them and spouting off on Twitter about forcing a few football players to stand for a national anthem that praises freedom of rebellion. My readers are well aware that I view Donald Trump as a Pied Piper, leading conservatives down a path back to neocon totalitarianism. rather than towards the libertarian virtues of individual sovereignty. In other words, I'm not seeing much difference between Trump and Obama so far. Perhaps in rhetoric, but certainly not in action. The circus surrounding Trump's latest view of the NFL is just another distraction away from the fact that the administration is following a very similar policy path to every other corrupt administration before it, and conservatives are so tired of the trespasses of the social justice cult. Many of them are eating up every minute of the farce. I have to agree on that completely, so I'm not the only one that sees this. Thank you, Mr. Livingston. I'm going to continue on here, but let's summarize the actual power problem. If NFL players either stand for the national anthem because they believe in the ideas they represent but felt that our government no longer represents those ideas, then I would be in full support of their motives. Obviously, that is not why they are protesting. If the motivation is about speaking against corrupt government, then we would have refused to stand for the anthem back when Barack Obama, a constitutional wrecking cabana boy for the elites, was in office. If Trump attacks on the NFL were motivated by love of liberty as the anthem inspires, then he will not demand that players be forced to stand, in which is indeed a violation of the First Amendment rights. Instead, would have dropped that concept completely and stuck with the rational side of this position, which was for spectators to vote with their wallets and stop supporting the league with their dollars. Supply and demand, correct? Absolutely. The bottom line is whether or not you or I support their motives. Constitutionally, the legal president is on the side of the players. They have the right to act like bitches on a SJW plantation, kneeling and virtual signaling to their heart's content. And the public has every right to stop watching the NFL, drop their ESPN subscriptions, throw their overpriced sports jerseys in the trash, and move on to more important issues. Like, what the hell is all this nonsense with North Korea? And why do we keep hearing about economic recovery when the average American can't make it from month to month without running up their credit cards? And why are so many of us so damn fat and unhealthy? I have to agree on that. Hell, here's an idea. How about more people stop watching sports and start playing sports instead? Why not simply let the NFL die out along with every other venture poisoned by social justice? The point is, the NFL battle with Trump is irrelevant compared to the greater battle of ideas behind it. It is not for Trump to fight this battle. It is for the spectators and consumers to fight this battle. The solution is not Trump's Twitter account or his interference. The solution is for Americans to walk away and take their money with them. The solution is also not to attempt legislation on government force to strike fear with those who might disagree with us. Absolutely. I've seen far too many so-called liberty-minded people repeat frantically stupid mantra on stomp my flag and I'll stomp your ass. The great sacrifice of living in a free country is that you have to support the individual rights of everyone, even who don't believe in individual rights. Some might argue that this is not a path that is being pursued, so we should not be concerned. I say the social undercut today is the right for zealotry on both sides, and conservatives need to take the high road, even if it means things would be more difficult for us in the short term. Finally, to the players that have so far jumped in the Colin Kaepernick bandwagon, understand that you have delusions of grandeur. You're not Jesse Owens proving your worth in the face of Hitler's Aryan despotia. You're not important or effective activists in the grand scheme of things because your political and philosophical views are ill-informed and generally incompetent. In fact, your views and work in favor of the corrupt system, not against it. Like I have to agree on this point. Remember, it's okay for them to have homeland security, go into stadiums, patting them like little boys and girls, like little prisoners, being convicted of what? Going to your football game. Now we'll continue on here. While You do have the right to sit during the national anthem and know why you're sitting is more important than the action itself. If you're sitting because you have brought into a cultural Marxist con game that is using the fodder for political division, then perhaps you should rethink your little protest and trying to work towards concrete solutions. If you're going to use race and social inequality as the crux for your theatrical display of defiance, as you are cashing checks for millions in sponsorship deals paid for primarily by white people, then I think you'll find most America laughing at you in the end. Show us your true resolve and refuse that dirty imperialist money. Otherwise, you're just another overprivileged punk pretending to be underprivileged in order to gain notoriety at the expense of reason. That is true, and this is, like I said, I like this little commentary is something what she puts out there, because you have to always examine areas in a bigger picture. So this is when I hear all these folks talk about on Facebook, complain about the NFL, they want to worship Trump, they want to worship these players. Come on, you're hero worshiping. Idolatry is completely repugnant as far as I'm concerned. Repugnant, excuse my language. Totally irrelevant, unacceptable, and null and void. This is why, my friends, the NFL needs us more than we need them. What are they trying to use tax dollars to build a stadium? You all want to belly up? That's total nonsense. It's like you're building that stadium for the Raiders in Las Vegas. It should be privately invested, not on the city's tab. All right, this is why when I see these stupid things on what's going on TV and people are bickering what's going on, but they don't care about police state as long as they got their sports, as long as they got their football, makes sense. Like I said, football is entertainment. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great players out there that do care about their communities, and average NFL player's career is 4.5 seasons? Concussions, injuries, yeah, that's a big deal. And but you take that risk. I'm not going to argue with them about it. But one thing for sure, if you're going to do a protest, do something that will make a positive impact, not the stagnating bandwagon persona. Yeah. Or just what I'm saying, the whole Copernic thing, kneeling down. That's boring. That's a turn off. He has that right to do it. All right. But there's in the contract that say, hey, you got to stand for the national anthem. Then you'll be honored. Then that's called breaching the contract.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, we had.
I'm in union too. I know these things. So. Then I'll see here.
It's a different breed. Whatever.
I'm gonna continue one more thing. And this one here, same thing. This is by Mike Snyder. Came out a couple of days ago, and he's running for Congress in Idaho, Republican. Good stuff. Him and I are Facebook pen pals. It says here, disrespecting the national anthem and American flag are not legitimate forms of political protest. This is going to backfire on the left in a major way. On Sunday, more than 100 NFL players knelt during the playing of the national anthem. It was obviously an attempt to make some sort of public statement about Donald Trump, but it was exceedingly poor to go about doing that because of our young people are never even taught about the importance of our national anthem and our national flag at school. Most of these players didn't even understand what they were doing. Our anthem is sung and our flag is proudly displayed to major sporting events for a reason. The truth is that our national anthem and national flag are both symbols that directly represent our nation. In other words, when you show disrespect to the anthem or to the flag, you are literally showing disrespect to the United States of America. So what these players did on Sunday was essentially spit in the face of every single American citizen. It is not just an American thing. All over the world, it is well understood that respect for the national flag and other national symbols is not optional. What transpired at NFL games on Sunday will be broadcast all over the planet, and the rest of the world will be laughing at our national disgrace. The very first NFL game scheduled on Sunday was held in London, and a dozen players from both teams knelt while the national anthem was being played. The first game First game of the day between the Baltimore Ravens and Jacksonville Jaguars saw dozens of players both kneel, while most of the entire Jaguars on field and sidelines. Players and employees locked arms during the national anthem, including owner Sawad Khan. Some players stood while others knelt, and of course, similar sideline protests happened at other NFL stadiums all over the nation. Never before in American history we have seen anything quite like this. Demonstrations spread through the league as many players broke out the routine by joining the protest or engaging in a team-wide display of unity. Several players from Buffalo Bills, Denver Broncos, New York Giants, Detroit Lions, New England Patriots, New Orleans Saints, and the Atlanta Falcons were among those who choose not to stand for the anthem. Miami Dolphins, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Minnesota Vikings, Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears, Indianapolis Colts, New York Jets, and Los Angeles Chargers and Green Bay Packers stood with arms locked, but some players from those teams chose to kneel. I honestly don't think that the NFL will ever be the same after this. If it had already been transformed into the no-fun league, and now focus will be squarely beyond political protest rather than football for the foreseeable future. Needless to say, millions upon millions of Americans were completely disgusted by the disrespect shown of our national symbol on Sunday, and President Trump was one of them. If a player wants the privilege of making millions of dollars in the NFL or other leagues, that he or she should not be allowed to disrespect. Trump said in the tweets after our great American flag, our country should stand for the national anthem. If not, you're fired. Find something else to do. If professional players want to speak out against President Trump, I have no problem with that whatsoever. But for them, openly and blatantly disrespect our country is crossing a line that should never be crossed. It's interesting on that area because the whole thing is Trump could say make these statements, okay, on it. But what was he doing to restore our republic? That's the question. You gotta keep on supporting Donald Trump on the military-industrial complex, support the one world order agenda. We don't, like I said, anything's possible. Can Trump be a lapdog? Yeah. But you have to always gotta look at those areas. So I will continue on here. What in the world has happened to America? All over high school football coaches are being banned from saying prayers before games, and yet disrespecting our anthem as a flag somehow acceptable. The following comes from Zero Hedge. Mark Short, the president's legislative director, has also backed his boss, telling Minty Press that double stand for players who choose to voice their views on the field, and the president was speaking for the majority of Americans of what sort of expression was appropriate. Short compared a crackdown on the protest to the ban on high school football coaches leading players in a prayer before games. There are high school coaches across America today who are punished for leading their players in prayer, and yet when the NFL player take a knee, somehow that player is presumed to be a martyr for a social cause. Mr. Short said on NBC's Meet the Press, the president is standing with the vast majority of Americans who believe that our flag should be respected. Many of these players are going to look back on what they have done with great shame. They may have believed they were disrespecting President Trump, but the truth is that they were disrespecting this great land and every single American that has ever lived. They owe us an apology, and it should have happened as soon as possible. And the NFL may think that it is all powerful, but stunts like this is going to cost us millions upon millions of dollars. Already the ratings were way down because a few players that were kneeling whenever the anthem was played. The player protest national anthem, such as when Colin Kaepernick took a knee in protest, are the number one reason sports fans watch fewer NFL games, and new survey shows. If just a few players kneeling down that had much of an impact on the ratings, what do you think is going to happen now? Unfortunately, I have a feeling that this is just the beginning. In fact, one former Democratic member of Congress called an NFL player kneel while the anthem is played. A former Democrat congresswoman has called for every NFL player to kneel during the national anthem at Sunday's game while branding President Donald Trump white supremacist. Donna Edwards, who retired as a U.S. representative from Maryland earlier this year, issued a bold statement on Saturday responding to Trump's criticism of the NFL players who refuse to stand for the anthem. On Sunday, I hope that every player takes a knee in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick against the white supremacist who squats in our White House, Edwards said in a reference to the former San Francisco quarterback who's now a free agent. No matter what your political perspective is, it is wrong to disrespect our national anthem, and it's wrong to disrespect our flag. And anyone that disrespects our anthem and our flag is spitting in the face of the entire country. What happened on Sunday was a national disgrace, and those involved need to apologize to the American people immediately. And you can say, I'm not going to argue with Mike Snyder's or other things. He has his own personal views. I'm not going to disrespect him by any means. I do support freedom of speech. They don't want to kneel down like a bunch of clowns. That's one thing. But here's a question I have for the folks out there, even to the people in Congress who are critical of this too. Will you denounce the United States of America as a federal corporation? Will you take down every flag in your institution, whether it's executive or judicial, legislative or judicial institutions in this country, of banning the American flag pertaining golden fringes? Will you be doing that? Will you be abolishing the IRS? Will you be on your oath of office? Many of these people in Congress haven't done that. Regardless if you're Democrat or Republican, they've been desecrating the flag. They've been desecrating our national anthem. That's what we have to look at too. Something to really think about. So all these people want to go after the NFL players. You should be going after people in Congress. You should be going after people. You should be going after the president. You should be going after the judges, the state governments, local governments, etc. That's how the cancer goes. But now, because everyone's complaining the NFL players did this, that's okay. We kind of bitch about that. But we see all this symbolic garbage and doing tribal agendas. People don't pay attention to that. They'll be bothering that. If it does, then they'll have a hoot and howl. And even too with the high school players, high school football, all that, their coaches are being banned for having the team do a group prayer before they go onto the field and afterwards. It's a blessing for them. Of course, when we use that white supremacy, as far as I'm concerned, you got these whitewash hats in there are saying, making those statements. Yes, I am critical of Trump, don't get me wrong. But if you see what's going on here, my friends, this is more than a dog and pony show. A big distraction. That's why I've been telling people for a long time. Is the NFL players were smart. They should stand up in solidarity, and after the national anthem, go, we denounce the United States of America as a federal corporation, plus say yes to freedom, no to tyranny. That's the New World Order. That will make strong impact. That will make the state, the system, really scared. That's considered a major threat. Creating light bulbs, making impact. That's the avenue I use. I've done it so many times. And you know what? People like what I said. And they announce after every national anthem to yes to freedom, no to tyranny. That's the New World Order. Folks like that. That's how you make impact. Kneeling, that's lame, stagnant, boring. Yeah, I'm always been ticked off at the world myself, but you gotta be methodical, get people to think. Can this hurt the NFL? Absolutely. If the players have to apologize, everyone in Congress should do the same thing for disrespecting our nation. Including people, folks in the cabinet of President Trump, supporting more wars, proxy wars. So always beware of the double standards. I'm going to add a video here as well from Ron Paul himself. It's very good. Trump versus the NFL, the right to protest. So it's always going to be both sides. That's why I have to look at all sides of the game. And like I said, my friends, let's all see things a lot bigger than what it is. There's bigger fish to fry. All right, I'm going to be chilling for a little bit. I'll be right back. Okay, so enough of the input on the NFL, on Donald Trump, etc. Let's just focus on here. Came from Land Destroyer. I like the gentleman's work. So it says here, the Iran nuclear deal leads to war, not peace. 25th by Tony Carlucci. So-called Iran nuclear, officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, that was hailed as historic when the United States, among other nations, became a signatory of it. Then U.S. President Barack Obama attempted to make convincing statements regarding to America's commitment to the deal. However, America's rhetoric compared to its actual actions, diplomatically, militarily, and geopolitically, told two different stories. The U.S. was waging proxy war with Iran when the deal was signed. The deal was created in 2015, 4 years since the United States engineered a destructive proxy war in Syria, one of Iran's closest and most crucial regional allies. By 2015, the United States had already committed to direct military intervention in Syria, occupying the Syrian territory, directly arming, funding, and providing air support for militants seizing Syrian territory, and even constructing military bases within Syria's borders. By 2015, the United States was revealed to have poured billions of dollars into arming militants ranging from Kurdish groups in Syria's northeast to militant aligned to Al-Qaeda and even so-called Islamic State, ISIS, in northern and southern Syria. While the U.S. President Barack Obama posed as conciliatory toward Iran, the U.S. was deeply in not only a proxy war against Syria, but ultimately a proxy war was aimed directly at Iran, according to years of U.S. policy papers dismantling Iran's allies in Syria and Lebanon were crucial prerequisites towards eventually undermining and overthrowing the government and political order in Iran itself. In 2009, U.S. corporate finances sponsored geopolitical policy think tank, the Brookings Institution, would publish a 170-page report titled "Which to Pass to Syria: Options for a New American Strategy Toward Iran." PDF format, look it up, in which it proposes several options, including having Israel attack on Iran on Washington's behalf. The report states emphasis added: the Israelis may want U.S. help with a variety of things. Israel may be more willing to bear the risk of Iranian retaliation, international opprobrium than the United States is, but is not invulnerable and make request certain commitments from the United States before it's all ready to strike. For instance, the Israelis may want to hold off until they have a peace deal in Syria in hand, assuming that Jerusalem believes is within reach, which will help them mitigate blowback from Hezbollah, and potentially Hamas. Consequently, they might want Washington to push hard in mediating between Jerusalem and Damascus. In hindsight, it is clear no peace deal that would be struck with Syria, and instead the wholesale destruction of Syria would be orchestrated. Many of the proposals presented in the Brookings report in regard to triggering conflict and regime change in Iran have been instead used on Syria. Signing an agreement posing as a rapprochement while simultaneously waging war, a proxy war against a Syrian, a principal party of the agreement, already indicates U.S. intentions regarding Iran and America's commitment to honoring the agreement beyond U.S. policymakers, openly conspiring to weaken or altogether dismantle Iran's regional allies before setting upon Iran directly years before the JCPOA was signed. U.S. policymakers pledged to propose, then intentionally betray a superb offer to help portray Iran rather than the United States as both an irrational threat to global security and a nation bent on acquiring nuclear weapons for the wrong reasons. The 2009 Brookings Institution report, which Path to Persia will explicitly describe the ploy, stating, "And a military operation against Iran will likely be very unpopular around the world and require the proper international context, both to ensure the logistical support the operation will require and to minimize the blowback from it. The best way to minimize international opprobrium and maximize support, however grudging or covert, is to strike only when there's a widespread conviction that Iranians were given but then rejected a superb offer, one so good only A regime determined to acquire nuclear weapons and acquire them for the wrong reasons will turn it down. Under those circumstances, the United States or Israel could portray its operation as taken in sorrow, not anger, and at least some in the international community will conclude that the Iranians brought it on itself, are refusing a very good deal. Shortly before U.S. President Barack Obama ended his second term in office, preparations were already underway to backtrack the Iran deal. With U.S. President Donald Trump now presiding over U.S. foreign policy, the U.S. is preparing to either entirely withdraw from the deal or to rewrite its conditions in a such fashion that Iran will be unable to accept it. As the endgame approaches in Syria, while the regime and total division and destruction of Syria would have been an idea for U.S. policymakers, who then seek to wage war upon Iran, Syria and its allies have paid a significant price in personnel and material. Despite this, Syrian forces have retaken virtually all significant population centers across the nation, including Syria's largest city, Aleppo, where reconstruction is already beginning. Syrian forces have also crossed and are currently establishing a stronghold east of the Euphrates River, further contemplating the partitioning of Syrian territory as envisioned by U.S. policymakers and their Kurdish and Arab proxies. With Russia and Iran forces deeply dug on the ground in Syria, the likelihood of the U.S. and its partner making any further headway against Syria is likely and faces a now or never moment in regards to pivoting the conflict and its regional resources toward Iran. Reconstruction in Iran and the loosening sanctions versus Iran will only further impede possible future operations against Iran. See, interesting stuff there, right? Absolutely. U.S. forfeits illusion of independent Israeli foreign policy, signaling increasing signs of desperation and aggression. The U.S. has opened its first official base in what, for all intents and purposes, been for decades for forward operating base for Wall Street and Washington, the Middle East, Israel. The Times of Israel, in an article titled "Infers to establish its permanent military base in Israel," would note for the first time in history, the United States on Monday established an official permanent military base in Israel, an air defense base in the heart of the Negev River. Dozens of U.S. forces soldiers will call home the new base located inside the Israeli Air Force Majavam Air Base west of the town of Dimona and Yuracham. Brigade General Tavizga Hamalovich, head of the IAF Israel Defense Command, announced the establishment of the installation on Monday evening. It is nothing short of historic, he said. It demonstrates the years-old alliance between the United States and the State of Israel. While it is indeed historic, it is notable for the significant concession it represents. For decades, Anglo-American interests benefited from the perception that Israel possessed its own aggressive, independent foreign policy. Maintaining this perception allowed the U.S. and its Western allies to use Israel to carry out regional aggression while maintaining plausible deniability. The aforementioned Brookings document specifically cited this one of several people means for provoking war with Iran by having Israel appears to unilaterally attack Iran, with the U.S. only joining in direct military intervention once Iran either committed to retaliation or a staged attack on Israel could be blamed on Iran. With a permanent U.S. military base on Israeli soil, plausible deniability and the illusions of independent Israel foreign policy vanishes completely. This may signal a much more blunt approach by Washington regarding any upcoming aggression against both Syria and Iran. Regional consolidation and preparation for what? The U.S. finds itself overly consolidating its positions in the Middle East at the time when the global balance of powers teeters dangerously close to irrevocably undoing American hegemony. Preparing the Middle East for war with Iran has been a work in progress since the end of the Cold War. It was an agenda that has transcended multiple U.S. presidencies and has concluded everything from U.S.-backed terrorism in the former organizations like Mujahideen-e-Khalq or MEK, to the U.S. colored revolutions like the Green Revolution in 2009, to the current proxy war raging against Syria and the ongoing diplomatic maneuvering surrounding the Iranian nuclear deal. Radical shifts in U.S. policy regarding Iran are not owed to new occupants of the White House, but rather the shifting geopolitical realities as the U.S. declines and other nations incrementally rise upon the world stage. Today, the U.S. has exhausted its international clout, reportedly abused international mechanisms for conflict resolution, and is openly pursuing war in Syria with the aid of militant groups intentionally designated as terrorist organizations. As the ability to wage war against Iran behind a smokescreen of legitimacy dwindles, the likelihood of openly carrying out an act of aggression increases. U.S. policymakers may hope that after consolidating its positions in the Middle East can carry out a single sweeping act of military aggression, Iran's allies will be unable or unwilling to contest. Desperate hegemons are dangerous hegemons. Interesting note there. More things about imperialism and who's behind it. Yeah, you can say the book is institution is part of a one world order agenda. Absolutely. Don't you see, folks? Everything is like, falling into place. They're going to use this thing to attack Iran and say, they're the bad guy. We should all go up there, up in arms, to go, God bless the empire, and we'll bow down to our kings. More things change, more it's the same. Correct? Absolutely. Vigilance is a patriotic thing. Dissident is honorable. A little rebellion now and then is good. Doesn't matter if it's violence, hopefully that won't be the case, or the information war. Yeah, the symbol support that completely. So why do we have to go and just be buddy-buddy with everybody? Let's all attack these countries in the name of our own interests. You don't speak for me. They never do. I say this. Let's have a true peace deal with these countries. Close down, shut down all our bases around the world, bring our troops home. You know, just leave the bases there for their occupation. Yeah, demolish them, tear it down, scrap it. It'd be their land, but not their bases, right? Absolutely. The deception continues. The status quo remains the same. I'm not going to take a thing here. It came from Ron Paul. Ron Paul Institute came out yesterday. How to end the Korea crisis. The descent of the U.S.-North Korea crisis to the level of the school year taunts should be remembered as one of the most bizarre, dangerous, and disgraceful chapters in U.S. foreign policy history. Donald Trump, who holds the lives of millions of Koreans and Americans in his hands, has taken the calling the North Korean dictator Rocket Man a suicide mission. Why? To goad him into launching some sort of action to provoke an American response? Maybe the president is not even going to wait for that. We remember from the Talking Gulf false flag that provocation doesn't even need to be real. We are in extremely dangerous territory, and Congress, for the most part, either remains asleep or is cheering on the saber rattle. Now we have the North Korean threats to detonate hydrogen bomb in the Pacific Ocean, U.S. threats to totally destroy the country. We are told that the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, is a madman. That's just what they say about Saddam, Gaddafi, Assad, and everyone else, the neocons target for U.S. military action. We don't need to be fans of North Korea to be skeptical of the war propaganda delivered by the mainstream media to the benefit of the neocons and the military-industrial complex. Where are the cooler heads in Washington to tone down this war voodoo? Making matters worse, there is a very little understanding of the history of the conflict. The U.S. spends more on the military than the next 10 or so countries combined. Thousands of nuclear weapons that can destroy the world many more times. Like 7 years ago, a U.S.-led attack on Korea led to mass destruction and the deaths of nearly 30% of the North Korean population. That war has not yet ended. Why hasn't a peace treaty been signed? Newly elected South Korean President Moon Jae-in has proposed direct negotiations with North Korea leading to a peace treaty. The U.S. does not favor such a bilateral process. In fact, the U.S. laughed off a perfectly sensible offer made by the Russians and Chinese with the agreement of the North Koreans for a double freeze. The North Koreans would suspend missile launches if the U.S. and South Korea suspended military exercises aimed at the overthrow of the North Korean government. So where are the cooler heads? Encouragingly, they are to be found in South Korea, which would surely suffer massively should a war break out. While U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Nikki Haley was bragging that the new UN sanctions against North Korea would result in a near-complete blockade of the country, an act of war. The South Korean government did something last week that shocked the world. It announced an $8 million humanitarian aid package for pregnant mothers and infant children in North Korea. And I talked about that on my podcast a while back. The U.S. and its allies are furious over the move, but how could anyone claim the mantle of humanitarianism while imposing sanctions that aim at starving civilians until they attempt and overthrow their government? Here's how to solve the 7-decade-old crisis. Pull all U.S. troops out of the Korean Peninsula. End all military exercises on the North Korean border. Encourage direct talks between the North and South, and an offer to host or observe them with an international delegation, including the Russians and Chinese, which are, after all, Korea's neighbors. The schoolyard insults back and forth between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un are not funny. They are, in fact, an insult to all of the rest of us. The doctor is correct. It's an insult to everybody. That's why, my friends, I've been telling people for a long time, even some people in my area of Fort Lauderdale, study the history before jumping on some ludicrous bandwagon. Don't get caught behind propaganda matrix. Pay attention. For the Republic, I'm not the only one that's saying this. You're talking about a man, Congressman Ron Paul, who served in the Vietnam War. He's seen bloodshed. He knows it. He's been there. All these neocon butt lugs want the war. They want climax. They want to masturbate with the war guys. With the that's a form of bellicose nature they have. Say Nikki Haley, you know what? I want her on the front line. See how tough she is. She's nothing but a piece of garbage as far as I'm concerned. You can tell I said so. I can give 2 craps what she thinks. But that's how I end. I agree with him on ending the Korea crisis. Speaking of this, I'll do one more thing here. And it's mainly on the freedom of conscience. It's the foundation of all freedom, by Jeffrey A. Tucker. As it says here, I was at church service Sunday and during one part of the program instructed people to stand or kneel. People did one or the other. I don't know why people chose to stand or kneel, but no one was upset either way. It was all peaceful and beautiful. I think of the diversity of expression as protective of the freedom of conscience. To be sure, any private organization that wants to impose one way or the other is within its right. The NFL to let players stand or kneel or impose one way. But let us never give an idea of the freedom of conscience. It is the foundation of all freedoms. It is the idea that gave rise to everything what we today call human rights. The bad old days. The ancient world knew only the idea of unity. Same beliefs, same religion, same laws to enforce the one hegemonic will. The military was a model by which the rest of society was organized. Tribes were tolerated so long as they never mixed and never challenged the ruling class. That idea was freedom. It was the core was the freedom of conscience. Compliance was the way, because the only means by which the idea can be realized, though, was the state, which presumed total to enforce unity. That idea came social stagnation. You stay in the station, which you were born, ruler, citizen, servant, merchant, slave. That system eventually broke down because thinking men and women cannot forever live in cages. New religions came along that defied the notion that Caesar was a proxy for God. Foreigners tired of living under occupation. The central state proved itself unable to fulfill its promises, and the people revolted. The state lost its power. One way broke down, but it took another 1,500 years before a different idea came to replace the idea of unity. That new idea was freedom. It was of course, was the freedom of conscience. This notion was first tried in Europe due to exhaustion from the religious wars that had lasted for centuries. It's not worth it. The 100-Year War, all that, just to give you guys an example. Try toleration. What if we let people believe what they want? What if the individual conscience can prevail as the motive force, so long as no one is harmed? It could work. Not only that, maybe we can find value in a diversity of religious expression, even if we regard the expression as false or contrary to what our own conscience dictates. Voltaire, in 1762, of Holland and Germany, the Jew, the Catholic, the Greek, the Lutheran, the Calvinist, the Anabaptist, the Socinian, the Mennonist, the Moravian, and so many others live like brothers in these countries and contribute alike to the good of the social body. Thomas Jefferson echoed the same. It does me no injury for my neighbor to say they were 20 guys or no guy. I neither pick my pockets nor break my legs. But is uniformity of opinion desirable? No more than the face or statue. The good of everyone is served by letting everyone exercise their freedom of belief in non-violent ways. Remarkable, this one idea flipped all known history on its head and forged a new way to think about the individual and society. The new system worked. It turns out that unity was not necessary. Toleration improved life for everyone. A new wall was erected between the will of the leaders and the rights of the people. This wall thickened and grew higher over centuries. The freedom of conscience necessarily and eventually led humanity to new ways of thinking and living. The idea of human rights began to be implied for other areas. Freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of association, freedom of trade, create, buy and sell, travel and move. The root was the same in every case. The core governed unit of society is located within the individual. The conscience, this and not the will of the leader, is the guide. The theory behind this idea grew ever clearer into focus during the Enlightenment. So persuasive was an idea that served as the core of the founding idea behind the United States. Religion that once aspired to build spiritual enemies came around too and placed the rights of conscience at the core of even doctrine, what remains today in, for example, Catholicism. Blessed commerce, the economic stagnation began to give way something new and spectacular. Rising wealth. With that came technology, better lives for more people, the end of plagues, movement of populations to the city. Deirdre McCloskey and her 3-volume work demonstrates the cause. It was unleashing creativity of the human mind. The freedom to think new thoughts, dream new ideas, and put them into practice guaranteed by law and gave world these gifts. Freedom of conscience necessarily and eventually led to humanity new ways of thinking and living. We learned to cooperate through commerce. Benjamin Constant wrote in 1819, this was the crucial difference between the liberty of the ancients and the liberty of the moderns. As a result, individual existence is less absorbed in political existence. Individuals carry their treasures far away. They take with them all the enjoyments of private life. Commerce has brought nations closer. It has given them customs and habits which are almost identical, and the heads of the states may be the enemies, the peoples and compatriots. Let people therefore resign itself. We must have liberty, and we shall have it. But since the liberty we need is different from that of the ancients, it needs a different organization from the one which would suit ancient liberty, and the latter, the more time the energy man dictated to the exercise of his political rights, the freer he thought himself on the other hand, and the kind of liberty which we are capable. The more the exercise of political rights leave us the time up from our private interests, the more precious will liberty be to us. We literally own the whole of our material lives to this one institution, the freedom of conscience. It was the great insight to locate the juridical center of social, political, and economic life in the individual. This was the switch that changed everything. We have shared an interest in regarding the conscience as scared and invulnerable, and will continue to do so. Stepping back from that principal force that does to speak or act contrary to what the heart and soul desires, even when no one will be hurt through their actions, and to do so in the name of God or country or the collective world of any sort, is contrary to everything we've learned and everything we sought to achieve as humans for the last half millennium. 500 years. In the contest between the will of the mob, especially when fed by the popular head of state, and the conscience of one, the individual must always win. And even if we don't agree, we have shared interest in regard to conscience and scared. Scared? No, sacred. I'm sorry, folks. I just said sacred before. They're sacred, not scared, sacred. I said sacred. I said scared. I'm a couple sentence up too, so I apologize for that. Sacred and inviolable in the basis of everything we truly love. Stand or kneel is your choice. I think it's good to end it because the fact is this, my friends, we are all individuals having inalienable rights. That's what freedom of conscience is all about. Doesn't matter where you live, where you're from. We have this free will mindset that we are entitled to enhance ourselves, rather be a number, be stagnant, be someone's property. Except for time of punishment and judicial due process, of course. What can we say? I don't have to agree what that person did or done, as long as he didn't violate others. I have that right, and I will stick by it. That's one of the areas you have to always look at ourselves. Stop worrying about the little petty things around us, including what's going on with the NFL. Hey, get them where it hurts. They're wallets. Even with the Trump administration, you can criticize them all you want. But remember, I told folks, always have merit. Don't be a terrorist. Any government of bobbleheads out there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know.
Tell us how to think, live, clean our rear ends, and not make conscious decisions. We're all going to have our imperfections. We're all going to hit potholes along the way. That's how life is.
One word. And it's a Russian woman with a few
The truth of the matter is, we can empower ourselves without anyone's assistance. It's up to you as an individual.
She's big as the megaliths. She's
I can say that about myself. And that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this information about the social media networks. That was a little over an hour. If you have any questions, comments, or something that's interesting you may want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondences with decorum. You can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Freedoms Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, Patreon.com, which is /LookYouLuck3 or 3 eyes. If you want to be a patron, donor, supporter, sponsor, etc., that'll be fantastic. Or you can hit me at Gab, which is gab.ai, which is a more, I would say, Twitter page that supports free speech. good site to check out. I haven't posted a lot of stuff on there yet to speak of my podcast, but I may go a little bit further in the very near future. Alright?
Yeah.
In addition, you can hit me from the email. You can email me at lookyluck3@gmail.com, or you can cryptic ones, lookyluck03@protonmail.com. Alright, my friends, that's all for now. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is hard to fulfill and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love. May your guardian spirits be with you.